Hi YouTube, Darth here. Every now and again I'm playing Battlefield and I'll be kind of grumpy. Sometimes this is because there are features in the game I kind of wish didn't exist. But I knew I couldn't be alone in this, so I asked the Battlefield 4 community over at Reddit what their least favorite things are. Specifically, if you could delete one thing from Battlefield, what would it be? I'm going to lead off with their popular responses and then finish up with my own pet peeve. First up, players would apparently delete counter-knifing, and I couldn't agree more. Here's a feature that sounded great in the run-up to Battlefield 4. Players would always have a knife battle in close quarters, and it would be decided by what sounded like an interactive system. Well, it turns out that it's not very interactive, and it's extremely temperamental with internet connections. You could think that you're knifing somebody in the back, only to find out that their position was out of date, and now you're knifing their front and getting counter-knifed. Or you could turn to face your attacker, but actually get knifed in the face with no counterattack. And then there's the whole weirdo invulnerability worked into the knifing system. Honestly, the system worked pretty well in Battlefield 3, where front knife meant you slashed the enemy and anything else was a takedown. What we have in Battlefield 4 is a mess and should never have left beta. Let's delete it. Next up on the chopping block is Commander Mode. Now here's another interesting idea that ruins the game in its own way. A legacy from Battlefield 2, Commander Mode was updated for Battlefield 4 by bringing in tablet support and buffing its abilities. Players on the ground could enable commander abilities by capturing points and earn additional score by following orders. In theory, this player gives cohesion and direction to a team. In reality, it's another mess. If one team has a commander and the other team does not, it can easily turn into a one-sided show where one team has a near-constant god vision, nukes raining from the sky, and the cause of all this is completely immune to any retaliation. In fact, have you ever tried shooting down the commander UAV? It literally takes as many shots as an aircraft, and if you actually kill it, it just refreshes the commander's UAV cooldown instantaneously. Now this really sucks in its current incarnation, but I think it's a salvageable idea, at least on Conquest. First, it doesn't belong in any other game mode. It doesn't belong on a tablet. And the commander shouldn't be some god figure immune from reprisal. Like Battlefield 2, the commander should be a player on the ground. As a player, I should be able to kill them, and I should be able to disable commander call-ins like I could in Battlefield 2. The UAV should definitely not keep me spotted 100% of the time. Imagine if it were like an MAV that could be summoned at any time, anywhere, but that the commander actually had to physically spot enemies. So a lot sucks about the current commander, but I think this is an idea if done right we could recycle. Closely related to the previous candidate, we have the AC-130. I remember in Battlefield 3 when this vehicle first came along and thinking it was stupid then. When I found out it was in Battlefield 4, all I could think of is why? Here's this big stupid sniper artillery platform in the sky that on many maps relies on the MAA or stealth jet to shoot down. You can't hit it with manpads except in the very few circumstances. That being said, it's not completely unstoppable and is actually quite fragile once given attention. I said early on that the vehicle wasn't fun for anybody. It wasn't fun for the gunners inside the flying coffin, and it wasn't fun for the people on the ground who feel they were killed cheaply. The AC-130 feels like a back-of-the-box relic from competing with Call of Duty Modern Warfare and doesn't really endear any good feelings from players. So I'd delete it, but I'd also replace it with the droppable IFV from Battlefield 3. Next up on the unpopularity list is 3D spotting. When you press the spot button over an enemy in their sights, you spot them. A Dorito appears above them and calls out their position to everybody on your team. It sucks pretty hard when you're spotted for what seems like forever. In reality, this is a game conceit to simulate communication between soldiers, which a lot of players don't do and the squad structure of Battlefield prevents. It also is an assist to newer players who cannot tell friendly from foe based on their silhouette. And to be honest, the distinguishing features and silhouettes in Battlefield have been getting progressively crappier since Battlefield 1942. Everybody is a big mud blob now. It's a tough call here. There are definite reasons to have 3D spotting, but what's the point of using camouflage or hiding in tall grass if somebody can just press a button and you're immediately revealed for an indeterminate amount of time? 3D spotting is probably not likely to leave the franchise in future installments, but I think we can make drastic improvements. Firstly, passive spotting where you have an enemy in your sights but you don't physically spot them has got to go. If you didn't go through the effort of pressing the button, why should your team get to know the location of an enemy even if briefly? Secondly, the game has to be smarter about where players can't be spotted. If they're obscured by fog, haze, smoke, tall grass, or other structures, you shouldn't get a freebie at long distances by spamming the spot key. Furthermore, being spotted by an enemy and then concealing yourself behind cover should not keep a spot on you and should definitely not keep you on the minimap. Just because I was spotted once shouldn't give players supernatural knowledge of my future location. The moment they break line of sight, the spot should go away. Now, spotting has improved quite a bit in recent patches, but could still use some work, so I'd recycle this idea, but my finger is really close to delete if it can't be fixed. There's nothing more infuriating than the nigh invulnerable, practically untouchable, easily repairable Flying Scout Fortress. It's a hard vehicle to counter when it has a competent pilot and a team working together, but so isn't any vehicle with a squad working together. So why is this one so hated? I think it has a lot to do with the maps that people typically get dominated by it: Flood Zone, Sunken Dragon, and Whiteout among others. These maps do not have a strong counter against them, and players often do not work together to remove the threat in a competent fashion. This is ultimately a failure in balance. The Scout Helicopter is both too good, and there are maps that don't counter it very well. So on these maps, the helicopter can just rack up kills. I don't think the fundamental concept of a light helicopter is a bad idea, I just think that giving it high maneuverability matched by high firepower and insane resilience makes it a tool that powers up incredibly when placed in the right hands. A simple change that could vastly affect its survivability would be to make it vulnerable to small arms fire as helicopters are in Battlefield Hardline. Even Hardline Scout could get ridiculous though. So further reduce or remove the ability for it to be repaired in flight, and I think the resilience then matches its firepower potential, much like the attack helicopter. So this is a concept I'd recycle, but I would be very wary about balancing it. Here's my personal input: spawn protection. It's the period of invulnerability right after a soldier spawns but before they move or shoot. I don't get the raw end of it very often, but when I do, it drives me crazy. Here's an infuriating situation. You are fighting an enemy, get a bullet into him, but his buddy spawns on him right then and there. If he spawns in your way, you just wasted several bullets on an invulnerable target. Most of the time this means you're dead. With the recent patches, we've removed the need for spawn protection on squad spawns. Players can't spawn into combat. Sure, it still happens, and when you're shooting at a bullet sponge, you can't help but think there must be a better way. And there is. Let that dope be punished for spawning in a poor location. It's not your fault the squad is not communicating or that it was a risky spawn, and yet you, the aggressor, are punished if you draw a short straw on the spawn. In general, the spawn system in Battlefield needs an overhaul, and spawn protection feels like a crutch to some poor implementation decisions. I'm going with delete it, because f*** spawn protection. Now it's time for the lightning round, where the scores can really change. Active radar missiles, yep, delete that crap. Incendiary grenade, good concept, bad implementation, recycle it. Sniper bullet trails, unless snipers are one shot, this is stupid, delete it. UCAV, delete it. Suave, delete it. Battle pickups, recycle them and put more thought into their placement next time. Attack jets, jets in general have problems, recycle them but make them actually unique. Single player, delete it, but I know that's not going to happen as game reviewers still can't figure out multiplayer only games. Beacon parachute spawns, recycle it, put constraints on it depending on what game mode you're on, or make it 2 gadgets. So where does that put us? 8 things that should be deleted and 7 things that could be potentially recycled in a future Battlefield title if done right. Whatever the next Battlefield title is, I certainly hope it learns the lessons of what went right in Battlefield 4 and what should never be seen from again. That's it for this video, but I'd like to hear from you folks. If you could delete one thing from Battlefield, what would it be? Let me know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time, YouTube.